Commercial Arithmetic Income Tax. The table below shows the income tax rate. Mr. Otiende earned a basic salary of 13,120 shillings and a house allowance of 3,000 per month. He claimed tax relief for a married person of 455 shillings per month. A. Calculate 1. The tax payable without relief. 2. The tax paid after relief. B. Apart from the income tax, the following monthly deductions were made. Service charge of 100 shillings, a health insurance fund of 280 shillings, and 2% of his basic salary as widow and children pension scheme. Calculate 1. The total monthly deductions made from Mr. Otiende's income. 2. Mr. Otiende's net income from employment. Now you can see table A1, Mr. Otiende, the gross tax payable is computed first by getting the basic salary plus house allowance to get the taxable income. Then it's taxed according to the tax brackets. You can see the bracket between 1 and 325 shillings is taxed at 2 shillings, and then the next 325 shillings is taxed at 3 shillings, and then the rest of Mr. Otiende's salary is taxed at 4 shillings. Now the first bracket tax at 2 shillings, his tax is 215. The next bracket taxed at 3 shillings, his tax is 975, and lastly that part of his salary taxed at the third bracket at 4 shillings, the tax is 624. Total gross tax is 2,249. Now table A2, you can see Mr. Otiende, the gross tax payable 2,249 less married tax relief of 455, and the tax payable, the net tax Mr. Otiende pays is 1,794. The third table of computation, not the total table, the third table of computation, we have B1, Mr. Otiende, the tax, the service charge, the insurance fund and widow's pension, and then we have the total deductions. So the total deductions from his pay slip are accumulate to 2,436 shillings and 40 cents. Now what is his net pay? We have the gross pay minus total deduction to get the net pay of 13,683 shillings and 60 cents. The table below shows the monthly income tax rates. A civil servant earns a monthly salary of 20,000 shillings and is provided with a house at a nominal rent of 700 shillings per month. The taxable pay is the employee's salary plus 15% of salary as a housing benefit less nominal rent. Calculate A, the civil servant's taxable pay in Kenya pounds. B, calculate the total tax, and C, if the employee is entitled to a personal relief of 600 shillings per month. What is the civil servant's net tax? Now the table 1 shows the monthly tax brackets. So we shall go straight to table 2, which is named A, taxable pay, to compute the taxable pay of this civil servant. So the total salary is 20,000. Add house benefits, that's 15% of salary, 3,000, and then subtract nominal rent from it. So we have the taxable pay as 22,300. Converted into Kenyan pounds by dividing by 20 shillings, we have 1,115 Kenyan pounds. Now, table 3, we have the taxable, the total tax. So total tax, we start with the taxable pay in Kenyan pounds, and then we tax the pounds. So the first pounds, 342 are taxed at 2 shillings, that is 684 as tax. The next 342 pounds are taxed at 3 shillings. The total tax is 1,026 shillings. And the next 342 pounds are taxed at 4 shillings. The tax is 1,368 shillings, and the last pound is taxed at 5 shillings. That is 89 pounds multiplied by 5 shillings, we get 445 shillings. So the total tax, gross tax for this civil servant is 3,523 shillings. And what about the next tax, the net tax? The net tax, we just subtract relief from the gross tax, and we get the net tax as 2,923. This is gotten by subtracting a relief of 600 shillings from the gross tax. The table below shows income rates. A company employee earns monthly basic salary of 30,000 shillings and is also given taxable allowances amounting to 10,480 shillings. A. Calculate the total tax, income tax. B. The employee is entitled to tax relief of 800 shillings per month. Determine the net tax. C. If the employee receives a 50% increase in his total income, calculate the corresponding percentage increase on the income tax. So the first table shows the tax bracket, how the tax is taxed on somebody's income. Now table 2, the total income tax for this employee. Now the employee has a total pay of 2,024 Kenyan pounds. These are taxed as follows. The first 435 at 2 shillings, that is 870. The next 435 at 3 shillings, that is 1,305. The next 435 at 4 shillings, that is 1,740. The next 435 pounds at 5 shillings, that is 2,175. And the rest of his income, which is found 284 at 6 shillings, giving a tax of 1,704. Now the net tax for this employee is after subtracting a personal relief of 800. shillings. The net is 6,994 shillings. Now that is it. Part C, we saw that the gross pay of this employee before an increase was 2,024 Kenyan pounds. Now what about if it's increased by 50? The pay will go up to 3,036 Kenyan pounds. Now, being taxed at the brackets of 435, that is at 2 shillings, 3 shillings, 4 shillings, and 5 shillings, and then the rest at 6 shillings, which is 129. We get that the total gross tax after an increase of 50 shillings, or 50% of his income is 13,866. Now less the gross income previously before the increase of 7,794. We get that the increase is 6,072 shillings. Now what is the percentage increase or growth in tax? You take the increase all over the previous tax times 100. The increase is 6,072. The previous tax before increase was 7,794. Divide the two multiplied by 100% to get that the tax increased by 77.91% to 2 decimal places. The table below shows Kenya tax rates in a certain year. In that year, Mohando earned a salary of 16,510 shillings per month. He was entitled to a monthly relief of 960 shillings. Calculate A. Mohando's annual salary in Kenya pounds. B. The monthly tax paid by Mohando in shillings. Now, the first table shows the tax brackets, the income, and the rates per bracket. Now, let's go to the next table. Mohando's annual salary will be gotten by taking his monthly salary multiplying by 12 months. It totals up to 198,120 shillings. Divide by 20, it comes to 9,906 Kenyan pounds. Now these pounds are taxed as follows. The first 4,512 at 2 shillings. The next 4,512 at 3 shillings. And the rest of his income 882 at 4 shillings. So his gross tax is 26,088. Less tax relief, he gets a tax relief of 960 per month. Multiplied by that by 12, he gets 11,520. Less his from his gross tax, we get that he pays a net tax of 14,568 shillings. Now, that is the annual tax paid. What about monthly tax paid? You just divide the annual tax by 12 and we get it is 1,214. The table below shows monthly income tax rates for the year 2003. In the year 2003, Ole Sanguya's monthly earnings were as follows. Basic salary 20,600 shillings, house allowance 12,000 shillings, medical allowance 2,880 shillings, transport allowance 340 shillings. Ole Sanguya was entitled to a monthly tax relief of 1,056 shillings. Calculate his monthly taxable income, and B, the monthly tax paid by Ole Sangue. Now the first table shows the tax rates per the brackets. The brackets are in Kenyan shillings. Now the next table is the computation of Ole Sangue's monthly taxable income. The monthly taxable income for Ole Sangue is composed of basic salary of 20,600 shillings, house allowance of 12,000 shillings, medical allowance of 2,880 shillings, and transport allowance of 340 shillings, totaling to 35,820 shillings. Now, the last table shows Ole Sanguya's tax liability. Now, his monthly income is taxed as follows. The first 9,680 shillings at the tax is 968 shillings. Then the next 9,120, the tax is 1,368. The next 9,120, the tax is 1,824. And then the last of his salary 7,900 shillings. The tax is 1,975. His total tax, gross tax, is 6,135 shilling, less monthly tax relief of 1,056 shilling. Ole Sanguya pays a net tax of 5,079 shillings. The table below is part of tax table for monthly incomes for the year 2004. In the year 2004, the tax on Kerubo's monthly income was 1,916 shillings. Calculate Kerubo's monthly income. Now here we have to break the tax to correspond with the brackets. Now, if the monthly tax was 1,916, we look at the first bracket. The first bracket, the tax is 968, which means the amount that has been taxed at 10% is 9,680. And then the Keribo's salary ends at the second bracket with an amount of 948 shillings. This has been taxed at 15%. Now, turn that into 100%, we get that it is 6,320. So, add the total, we get that his total income is 16,000. The table below shows income tax rates in a certain year. Robbie's monthly taxable earnings amounted to 24,200 shillings. A. Calculate the tax charged on Robbie's earnings. B. Robbie was entitled to the following tax reliefs: 1. Monthly personal relief. 2. Monthly insurance relief at a rate of 15% of the premium paid. Calculate tax paid by Robbie if each month he paid a monthly premium of 2,400 towards her life insurance policy. C. During a certain month, Robbie received additional earnings which were taxed at 20% in each shilling. Given that she paid that 6.3% more tax that month, calculate the percentage increase in her earnings. The first table shows the tax brackets and their percentage. Now, the second table shows Robbie, the tax payable. We start with the taxable income of 24,200, and then we show how it is taxed. The first 96.80 at 10 shillings, the next 91.20 shillings at 15%, and then the last 5400 shillings at 20%. His total tax is 3,416. The third table shows tax paid by Robi. We have the gross tax of 1316, less insurance relief of 360, and the personal relief of 1056 shillings. So the net tax is 2000 shillings. Now, Robi's earnings increased. So you just go straight away to the bracket in which they increased. That's the bracket of 20. So the increase is calculated as a bracket of 20. Now here we are given the tax, the tax. So the increase in tax was at the bracket of 20. So we work back to get the income, and we find that the increase in income is 3,630. Now compare that with his previous income, we find that the increase was 15%. In June of a certain year, an employee's basic salary was 7,000 shillings. The employee was also paid a house allowance of 6,000 shillings, a commuter allowance of 2,500 shillings, and a medical allowance of 1,800 shillings. In July of that year, the employee basic salary was increased by 2%. A. Calculate the employee's 1. Basic salary in July. 2. The total taxable income in July of that year. In that year, the taxable income tax rates were as shown in the table below. Given that the monthly personal relief was 1,056 shillings, calculate the net tax paid by the employee. Now the tax table given, uh, the table 2, A1, the basic salary in July, that's how it's computed. It was increased by 2%, so you take 2% of the previous salary and find the increase. And then, having find the increase in basic, just add other uh, payments and benefits, and the total salary taxable income becomes 27,640. Now the tax paid computed per bracket, the gross is 14,104 shillings, less personal relief of 1,056 shillings. You get that the employee paid a net tax of 3,048 shillings. The table below shows income tax rates in a certain year. In that year, a monthly personal relief of 1,056 shillings was allowed. Calculate the monthly income tax paid by an employee who earned a monthly salary of 32,500 shillings. Now we have been given the tax tables, so we go ahead, break the employee's income according to the tax table, and compute the tax. You get the gross tax of 5,305 shillings, less personal relief. You get a net tax of 4,249 shillings. The table below shows income tax rates for a certain year. A relief of 1,162 shillings per month was allowed. In a certain month of that year, an employee taxable income in the fifth band was 2,108. A. Calculate the employee's total income in that month. A2. The tax payable by the employee in that month. And B, the employee's income included house allowance of 15,000 per month. The employee contributed 5% of the basic salary to cooperative society. Calculate the employee's net pay for that month. Now we have been given a tax bracket, so it means we start with the tax bracket working back to get the employee's income. Like you have been given the fifth bracket. The fifth bracket is taxed at 30%. Now, what is the income? The fifth bracket we were given the income that was taxed in the fifth bracket. So automatically we just get the incomes of the other brackets after the fifth. The first bracket is 10, the second is 9,000, the third is 9,000, the fourth is also 9,000. Add the 2,000 for the fifth bracket together, the employee had an income of 41,000 shillings. Now, how do we tax? We tax it according to the brackets, and we get the employee had to pay a tax of 6,232. Now, what is the employee's net pay? The employee's net pay, we shall subtract tax from it and the cooperative contribution. We get that the net pay was 33,468. The income tax rates of a certain year were shown in the table below. In that year, Shaka's monthly earnings were as follows: basic salary, house allowance, medical allowance, transport allowance. Shaka was entitled to a monthly tax relief of 1,056 shillings. A. Calculate the tax charge on Shaka's monthly earnings. B. Apart from the income tax, the following monthly deductions were made: health insurance fund of 500, education insurance of 1,200, and 2% of his basic salary to widow and children pension scheme. Calculate Shaka's monthly net income from his employment. So this is self-explanatory. The table 1 shows how the tax is calculated to get a net tax of 8,474. And then the last table shows the net pay, starting with the gross pay, less tax, less health insurance, less education insurance, less contribution to window and pension scheme, and then we have his net pay as 36,594 shillings. The table below shows the tax rates of a certain year. In that year, the monthly personal relief of 1,280 was allowed. In a certain month of that year, Sila earned a monthly basic salary of 52,000 shillings, a house allowance of 7,800, and a commuter allowance of 5,000. A. Calculate 1. Sila's taxable income. 2. The net tax payable by Sila that month. And B. In July that year, Sila's basic salary was raised by 4%. Determine Sila's net salary in July. The second table shows Sila's taxable income, how it's computed. You add basic salary, house allowance, and commuter allowance. And then the second table shows Sila net tax payable, how it's computed. And the last table shows the net salary. We start with the gross salary and deduct the net tax. The table below shows income tax rates for a certain year. In that year, Mawira earned a salary of 41,000 shillings per month. Calculate Mawira's income tax per month, given that monthly tax relief of 1,162 was allowed. Now, this is self-explanatory. You can see how it is computed using the tax brackets to get a net tax of 6,232 shillings and 40 cents. The table below shows the income tax rates for a certain year. During the year, Mora's monthly income was as follows: basic salary, house allowance, commuter allowance. Calculate one, Mora's total monthly taxable income. Two, taxable income, total income tax charged on Mora's monthly income. And B, a proposal to expand the size of the first income band by 50% while retaining the size of the three next bands was made. The tax rates would remain as before in each band. Using the proposal, calculate 1. The tax Mora would pay in the first band, and 2. The tax Mora would pay in the last band. I can see all the computations done clearly. One should be able to follow them without a problem. The table below shows the income tax rates in a certain year. In the year, the monthly earnings of Kanini were as follows: basic salary, house allowance. Kanini contributes 7.5 of her basic salary to a pension scheme. This contribution is exempted from taxation. She is entitled to a personal relief of 1,408 shillings per month. Calculate A. Kanini's monthly taxable income, B. The tax payable by Kanini that month, and C. Kanini's net pay that month. Now we compute the total taxable income by adding the basic salary, house allowance, and then less pension contribution, because this is exempted from tax. Now you get the taxable income and tax it according to the tax brackets. Then what will be the gross pay? The gross pay will be, the net pay will be the gross pay less pension contribution less tax. The table below shows the income tax rates in a certain year. A tax relief of 1,408 per month was allowed. Calculate the monthly income tax paid by an employee whose monthly taxable income was 26,545 shillings and 75 cents. Now you can see table 2. This is clearly calculated, and one should be able to follow this, given that we have gone through the video and we are now an expert. The following table shows monthly income tax rates of a certain year. In that year, a monthly relief of 2,400 shillings was allowed. The net tax on Lysiando's monthly income was 1,500 shillings. Calculate Lysiando's monthly income. Now, the monthly taxable income per bracket is the first bracket is taxed at 10%. The next bracket is taxed at 25%, and anything above 32,333 shillings is taxed at 30%. Now let's end ahead. A net tax of 1,500, personal relief of 2,400. So his gross tax was 3,900. Now we start from there. The first band, he has to pay a tax of 2,400, and that band, it means the income is 24,000. Now what is remaining of the Sanders tax after taking 2,400 is 1,500. Now 1,500 is in the second band, which is taxed at 25%. So multiply that tax by 125%, we get the income as 6,000. So add 6,000 to 24,000, we get that Lesando's monthly income was 30,000 shillings.